This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised. A very warm good morning to all of you watching from wherever you happen to be in the world. We are on the Sunset Safari here at WildEarth. If you happen to be Sunrise Safari here at WildEarth, if you happen to have just stumbled upon the stream, we've got Owen on camera. Hello, Owen. And we're looking for, well, anything that might be interesting to us today. Still cloudy, so not much light around. First 45 minutes of our safari dedicated to the youngsters who might be watching. So you can send through your questions on the email address kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. That's kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. We are hopefully going to find a cat today. That's always the goal. But maybe there'll be beautiful elephants. There'll certainly be lots of antelope and that sort of thing, and perhaps the odd interesting bird as we go along. It's about 17 degrees Celsius, I'm told. 17 degrees Celsius, 73 degrees Fahrenheit. I think that's, no, it can't be right either. 17 is 63. 17 and 63. 63 Fahrenheit, 17 degrees Celsius. There is an impala, our first animal of the day. The dawn chorus is barely broken because the sun is failing so far, fairly dismally, to make a great impression on the darkness. All the crickets are still calling, apparently, which is nice. If we're lucky, we'll hear some lions call their last. There's a hyena calling not far away. Slowly the doves are waking up. Crickets are loud, actually. And that impala has an itchy leg. Otherwise, all is at peace here in the wilderness, which is good. We didn't hear anything in the night, actually, and very little came past our dam camera. Rosie, yes, indeed, a relief for the impala. They made it through the night. I often wonder to myself, I don't know, I'm sure research has been done on this, but the hormonal profile of impala must be interesting. That's a camp that belongs to Djuma, by the way. We're sitting outside right now. It's called Tumbeta. And the hormonal profile for the youngsters who are watching just means the kinds of hormones that are being produced. And a lot of those hormones have to do with stress. So I'd like to investigate what sort of stress hormones these impalas produce, because that would tell us then whether they're stressed all the time, so if they're actually worried about being eaten all the time, or if sometimes they're quite relaxed. I'm sure someone's probably done that research, but I haven't found it. Let us now go across to my partner in crime here on Djuma Private Game Reserve today. That is Trishala, and she's already managed to find a spider.
I have found a spider, and I most definitely am James' partner in crime. We get up to lots of criminal activities here, such as showing you all this lovely wildlife. Isn't that awesome? We have a banded golden orbwave spider. Very nice and very big, very beautiful, don't you think? Hello, my name is Trishala with Darby on camera this morning for your very own sunrise safari, very own live and interactive, and you get to chat to us. Isn't that wonderful? I hope that you have lots of questions for James and I, especially about this lovely spider. Now, it is quite early in the morning still, so she's probably just chilling for a little bit. She's going to be waiting for the insects to emerge as it gets a little bit warmer and brighter. And then the insects fly. We know insects have wings, or most of them have wings, and that's why spiders have webs up in trees or between trees, so that those insects that fly can fly into the web. There's some old spiders from many years ago that actually didn't have webs like this. They'd have webs on the ground, and that was before insects had wings. So as insects started to evolve or change to suit their environment, and they started to fly, spiders needed to make a different plan to catch their food, and they started to build webs like this in the trees. Isn't that smart? Animals are very smart. Animals and vegetation. We call that flora for the vegetation and fauna for the animals. They're very smart. Over millions of years, they can change to suit their environment. She is missing a leg. She's only got how many legs, kids? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And how many legs do arachnids have? Arachnids are your spiders, scorpions. They have 8. So she's missing a leg. But don't fear, because spiders molt. That means they get rid of their outer very hard skin, almost like a shell, and they can replace a leg. And she's not very big, this one here, so she may have a few molts left in her, and she will be able, hopefully, to regenerate that leg. Well, there she goes. Started the morning trek, and I am going to send you over to Eric at andBeyond's Ngala, see what he's getting up to. Apparently, he's got a beautiful wildebeest for you.
Good morning from andBeyond Ngala, everybody. My name is Eric, and behind camera, as always, is Marcel. This morning we decided to come and sit in these big open spaces here and just listen to see what the morning has to offer. And it was still dark, and we heard these wildebeest alarm calling, and we switched off and we were listening and using our binoculars to try and figure out what was going on. But since then, the alarm calls have stopped, so we don't know if it was something more of a false alarm, maybe like a little jackal that was moving throughout the later parts of the morning on its way to its den site. And as you can see, a lot of these wildebeest now have started to split up. They're all in one big group where they settle down for the night, and they're all starting to move and moving in one direction. So I think that they might be on their way towards a waterhole, which might take them maybe 10, 15, maybe even a bit longer, probably closer to 20 or 30 minutes for them to reach. But they'll be feeding as they go. So whatever threat they thought was around has passed, but it was always worth just to stop and listen. This is an area where the mythical pride of lions that's been around in Ngala So Mia, who's 9 years old, has asked why there's so few wildebeest in the park, and I think Mia might be comparing those great reserves in East Africa, the Serengeti and the Masai Mara, where you've got a movement of wildebeest, and I mean there can be over 1.5 million wildebeest together. And one of the biggest reasons why we see fewer is I guess the habitat type isn't as good, and then also that they're not really a migratory species anymore here. They used to be, but unfortunately with a lot of human interference between the park or the protected areas and the urban areas, the wildebeest got stopped in that migration. So they've become more localized, and the males are territorial all year round. And so you often see them in small groups. I mean, I don't know the exact count of wildebeest that are in the whole area. But I think it's more than we expect, but we just don't see them in these really big groups of the big movements that we see in East Africa. For me, one of the biggest differences between the wildebeest here and the wildebeest in East Africa is the white beard. So Tennille's asked the size of a wildebeest, and a big male will probably weigh in the region of 300 kilograms. So what's that? That's about 640, 650 pounds, I would say. So they're substantial, they're big. They're big enough to be able to feed a whole pride of lions. So if this pride of lions managed to catch a wildebeest, it would probably sustain them for at least maybe another 2 or 3 days or so. I just wanted to check the exact weight for you. Yeah, so maybe a little bit under 300. My book says it's about 250 kilograms. So whilst these wildebeest are slowly moving into the bushes, we will link you back to James and see what's going on with those little grebes.
We have arrived for our daily visit with the little grebes. So we've got one parent feeding the other parent and some of the babies, or trying to feed the babies, and the babies, there's a little one, sticking his little head out. So at the moment, still only 2 babies, as far as we can tell. There's the other one. Or is that one? Yeah. I'm hoping they're 2. Let's just sit here for a while. It's always good to just sit a while in the mornings and listen. And if you can do it while you're looking at gorgeous little grebes, then all the better. Dad's gone off to try and find something. He's just off to the right there, I think. I can see a lot of wave. There he is. He just popped up to the right, yeah. Yes, I know what you mean, Luke. The grebes are becoming one of my favourite features of the drive too. Especially these ones, because these guys are very confiding, whereas the ones at our other waterhole are, well, very, I suppose, reticent to be on camera. Is he going to come back and bring some food? Oh. I do think they can hold their breath for quite a long time, actually. I think he's actually just in the shore out of sight. Let's check back at the nest. Nick, I don't know what the lifespan of a little grebe is. I'm assuming it's probably around about 15 years or so. They live quite long, birds, generally. But I don't know. I'm not sure it's been researched. Gosh, they are wonderful. Still, we've only definitely confirmed one. Now, Manya, these are not ducks, okay? So I know they look like ducks, but they aren't ducks. So we wouldn't call them ducklings, we just call them chicks or greblings. And they eat little insects, which the mother and father will find for them in the water. So they eat tiny little insects, and maybe tadpoles, and anything that the mum and dad can find in the water. You can see how puffed out she is. Yes, they are Corbett, aged 8 in Singapore. Baby grebes are certainly as waterproof as the adults. They get in the water from almost the second they're born. They'll be able to float in the water, and if their feathers were not waterproof, they'd sink. So yes, they are waterproof. They've got a lot of oil on them, and that oil makes them waterproof. Let's just have a slightly closer look there. Puma says that they live up to 10 to 15 years. Yeah, that's what I would have thought. Come on, little ones. Show yourselves. We want to see how many you are. Certainly one under the right wing. I wonder how comfortable it is to live under their wings. She's calling that the other one. Chip, chip. He's falling out of bed, that fellow. He's going to have to reevaluate. That's way the other side. I've just seen him way the other side. I don't know, I think that call was a little sort of comfort call maybe to the chick then and not to him. You have to come across here sometime when the grebes are not in their nest and do a little bit of trimming so we've got a nice view. Come on, Mrs. Grebe. Where are the rest of your bebes? Yes, Sarah, certainly on a wintry morning, it does look nice and toasty in the mum's wings. It's not too cold today, though. It's actually quite pleasant. There's no wind to speak of.
Living in your mum's armpit.
Well, that is one way of looking at it, Owen. Owen reckons it's like living in your mother's armpit. I'm not sure that's what everyone was going for earlier, but yes, I suppose possible. Many of you asking if a little grebe can fly. Yes, a little grebe can fly. They can definitely. I don't think they're the strongest flyers in the world, but they certainly can fly. He's certainly taking a while with the groceries. Many of you are still asking about the crested grebe. I must say at this juncture, categorically, there was no crested grebe. There was no crested grebe. No crested grebe came here. We all got overexcited about nothing. There was no crested grebe. The crested grebe was a little grebe. I checked it immediately after drive with a birding group. I looked at it properly. I zoomed in on the picture, and there is absolutely no question that what we were looking at there was not a crested grebe. Definitely a little grebe. Now we are going to go up to Ngala. with Eric. Eric has managed to find himself a, I think, beautifully coloured subtle bird.
We were driving along this road and just saw these two really stunning birds that are on the right-hand track over there, and just look at the coloration of them. They've all that brown color with those white mottled spots. So that's just to help them camouflage themselves, and that's one of the reasons why they haven't moved away from us. And we've been lucky to see them at a distance, and we've stopped to use this wonderful camera zoom to zoom in on them. And they seem to be relaxing and moving around a little bit more. So they are double-banded sand grouse, and you'll usually only find them in a pair. And this one in the foreground and the one in the background are a little bit different. And if you look very closely around the face of the one at the back, is where you'll see the major difference. So see the black and the white markings on it, and then also have a close look at the bill and see if you can see the color of it. It should be orange, and compare that to the female, who's got very little markings like that. So that's a really nice way. And if the male turns and looks at us, we might see a couple of bands that run across its chest. I think we might be able to see it now. Maybe. No. It'll be very cool for you to see them. I think you can just see that black ring as soon as it turns a bit sideways to us. Birds are fascinating because they nest on the ground, and they often nest in areas where there's little water. And so the sand grouse will fly to water, and they do so in big flocks. And it's one of those most remarkable things. You sit at a waterhole, especially when in dried up conditions, and you time it. You see 20, as soon as the sun sets, you click the stopwatch, and pretty much 15-20 minutes after sunset, you see these double sand grouse coming to drink. And you just hear their calls first, a very beautiful high-pitched call. They come down and they drink, and if they've got chicks, what the father will actually do is wet the breast of himself and literally drench the feathers in water, and he'll fly like that all the way back to the nest, and then the chicks will be able to drink off him. And they'll literally drink by sucking on those wet feathers. And just, I mean, they're moving around a lot, but that camouflage is just so perfect, so they can sit still and not move. So Luke from Australia has asked what my favorite type of bird is, and for me that's quite a difficult one to answer, and I usually associate a bird with a memory that's happened. And one of my favorite memories of birds is probably in Uganda. We went to go and watch or at least go and look for some shoebills, and within there the sandgrass fly. I don't know if you saw them flush off the ground. We went to go and watch them on a little boat, and within about 15 minutes we found two shoebills, and we sat and we waited and watched this thing for about probably close to an hour and a half. And honestly, we sat and we watched it, and we watched this thing just get its head into the water, and it brought out a catfish that was about this big. And so it caught this catfish and it swallowed it whole. And that was probably one of my most memorable bird sightings of all time. There's a few others in South Africa. I think one of my favorite birds has to be a crowned eagle. It's just striking, it's beautiful, it's big, and it's powerful. It's probably one of my favorite bird species in southern Africa. I don't know, Luke, if you've asking questions about birds, maybe you have a particular favorite that you have. I'd love to know what your favorite bird would be. So around us, the vegetation is starting to become more dense, which means that we're getting closer to the riverbed. And we're getting closer to the river, closer to that waterhole. So we're going to send you across to Tricia, and she's going to give us an update on her morning.
I think that's a great plan, Eric, to go to some waterholes. That would be lovely. Now I am having a look at tracks here on this junction to get a bit of a clue as who's been walking around Djuma. As you can see, the very, very beautiful sunrise. Now that lovely tree in front of the sun is called a silver cluster leaf. Doesn't it just look great? Really nice. Unfortunately, I don't see any tracks. I may just hop off briefly to have a better look. But as far as I can tell, no leopard tracks. There's some old leopard tracks. You know, I often get asked about how we can tell if a track is old or fresh. Look at this track here. What do you think about this track? You know, it's also a good way to say, to tell. Here's that track. And if I had to walk, boom, look at how sharp the edges of the pattern my boot makes is compared to this one. So this is very old. You can also tell it's from before the dew had settled and before the rain from last night. There was a little bit of rain. So that's how we can tell it's quite old. This here, that's a fresh track. As you know, because I just made it. Okay, well, we're going to go down this road anyway, because we can end up at Treehouse Dam, or at least towards that area. And then that would be a good spot, like Eric is going to. Good spot to just check out what's happening around waterholes. Now, I always say it's not very productive at Treehouse. Hello, Caleb. You're 7 years old and you're from Pretoria. You'd like to know how many species of large snakes we get here. Well, we get a rock python. That's a very large one, a very big one, you know, a python. Other large snakes that we get are black mambas. We get boomslang. They're quite large. The brown house snake is also not a bad size at all. Puff adders are not very long, but they are rather thick and dangerous. But apart from that, most of the other snakes are not very harmful to us, and they don't get very, very large. Now, this is a lovely spot that I'd love to show you. It is, let's go a little bit more to this clearing area here. It's quite a nice high spot in Djuma, and you can see this expanse, which I think is really nice, and you can see how the morning mist is still sort of settled in between the layers of trees. Almost looks like we're in Jurassic Park sometimes from this point. I love the look of the dead trees. I think they add something very beautiful to the whole landscape. Now, it's also really cool to just sit and watch a little while and listen. That's really important, not just to the birds, but for alarm calls, for maybe animals that are using this nice cool air to make sure that their call goes longer or further, because cool air allows sound to travel further. Do you hear anything? I hear lots of little birds far away. But no sawing, that's what a leopard makes. No roaring, that a lion makes. And no alarm calls. Wow, Davy, that's stunning. Very nice. It's a very peaceful morning out here today. Well, I am in the west, This is where this lovely clearing is. It's on a road called Zoe's Road. And apart from the lovely clearing, there's a lovely leopard that likes to walk on this road. Also, his name is Hukumuri. So I was hoping that maybe he'd walk along. Oh, that's so pretty. Lovely blush pink. When there's little particles of moisture in the air, especially in the morning, you know, the little mist causes that misty look. That also scatters light. That means that you'll see lots of different colors appearing, just like with a rainbow. With a rainbow, there's water in the air, and the sun hits the water, and it gives you all those fancy colors. Similarly, that's what's happening here. And you're getting these beautiful colors with the sun rising. I always really like autumn. Autumn and spring, my favorite seasons. I know that is 50% of the seasons that we get, but they're still my favorite. I also like summer and winter. What can I say? I like them all. Okay, off we go again. We're going to keep on driving. James is also out driving. Let's see where he's going to.
Oh, I'm just bumbling about at the moment. We've got lots of elephant tracks around the place, just no elephants just yet. We'll keep looking for them, obviously. The sun has come up, which is very nice. And so the clouds have dissipated, and I think we'll be in for a lovely warm day. I don't know where these elephants went and why they have decided that they don't wish to be on TV this morning. Insa and Uwa wondering where elephants are originally from. So what you're asking me is where they evolved, are you? I think. As far as I can remember, and I had a lovely book, I've got a lovely book that explains all this, but it's in Johannesburg where I can't get at it. The proboscidae, in other words the elephants, evolved in Africa and then spread to Asia. So as far as I'm aware, the last common ancestor of the Asian and African, and no, I'm talking rubbish, aren't I? I think I'm wrong. Let's quickly have a look at what's going on here. There's a quite interesting Impala interaction. I think that you'll probably find it's the other way around. I think they evolved in Asia. Because remember, of course, that there was the woolly mammoth. Remember the woolly mammoth? Look at this lovely running we've got going, the Impalas. I don't think they're having fun. I think they're being chased by the nasty male. That was fun to watch. And there they are, all sitting on their termite mound. That was lovely. So, let's go back to the question. Elephants, where do they come from? I'm assuming your question is, where did they evolve? What are their ancestors? And their ancestors, of course, are the mammoths, which I think occurred in Europe and Asia. And so, well, I know they did, and I'm going to assume, therefore, that the common ancestor of the African and Asian elephant comes from Asia, and that the African elephant is therefore, I suppose, originally, if you want to look at it like that, from Asia. That makes sense? Advik, the difference between an impala and a deer is that an impala is known as an antelope. Now, an antelope is closely related to a deer, but is not quite the same thing. And one of the differences, Advik, is that the impala has got or the impala and all antelope have got horns, whereas deer, you actually get antelope and deer in India. The deer have got antlers, and those antlers fall off. So they fall off every year, and horns do not. Horns remain on the animal. They're part of the skull. So that's one of the big differences. But they're not too distantly related. Their life strategies are very similar. So an impala is a kind of an antelope, whereas a mule deer, for example, that you get in India, is part of a different family called the deer. So they're two different families which have very similar life strategies. That was pretty. So lovely to watch them run because they are so graceful. All right, let's go across to Eric. He's got it at a waterhole, and apparently he's got some hippopotami, and they will hopefully be confiding and interesting.
Welcome back to andBeyond Ngala, and we just decided to come down towards this waterhole just to see what it had to offer us this morning. And so far, in terms of land mammals, not too much, but as you can see in the shot there, we've got 3 hippos. And one of the things that I've noticed about this morning is that there is not a breath of wind. If you look at the water, you can just see how still it is, which is creating this perfect reflection. You can see into the detail of the trees on the background there. It's nice to see these hippos. They've obviously just come back into the water. They probably arrived here early on in the morning, and this is pretty much where they'll be for the rest of the day. It's nice to see them quite close to a place where we can view them. In this waterhole, they're often very, very far away, so we don't get to see them very close up. Looks like one is resting its head on the other one as it's breathing. And then in the foreground there's 4 birds. I'm sure most people will recognize them as Egyptian geese. They're quite easy to identify. Let's see what other life we have around here. So there are the geese, the hippos in the background over there. Can you see any other birds there, Marcel? I'm looking at the screen and using my binos at the same time. Just more Egyptian. Oh, there we go. So white-faced whistling ducks. Oriana's asked why hippos' mouths are so big, and that's actually a very cool question, especially considering its diet. I mean, they pretty much only eat grass, and why would they need such a big mouth? I guess for the males, so within this waterhole, there'll be a male, and this is his territory. And he needs to defend his territory. And the way that the males try and defend their territory is by displaying to other males and showing off how big they are. And one of the ways that they do that is by opening up their mouths to show their possible challenges, how big and sharp their teeth are and how wide their mouths are. And so if that is the case, they will size each other up, and if they can't find a sizable or noticeable larger male, they'll start fighting, and that's when they'll start clashing with those big open mouths. And they literally open up as wide as they can, and they hit each other with these big tusks that they have. So they've got tusks that come up from the bottom of the jaw and tusks that will stick straight out, almost like spears or knives, and that's what they'll use to attack one another. They're a bit counterintuitive if you look at the size of the hippos and the size of their mouths, and pretty much the only thing that they eat is grass. So I guess also for the females it will serve as protection. The youngsters are born very, very small. Olivia and Natasha, all the way from London, are asking how much of the day do hippos stay in the water. And Olivia and Natasha, they'll stay in the water the whole day. And if you've been watching, I'm sure you might have heard the differences between nocturnal animals that are active during the nighttime and diurnal animals that are active during the day. So hippos are nocturnal, so they come out of the water at night and they feed around this area, feeding on grass, and they come back in the daytime to protect themselves from the sun, and also to protect themselves, I guess, from predators that might be around. The only time you might find them out in the daytime is coming into wintertime, when the water is very, very cold. You might find that they'll lie at the very edge of the water, sunbathing and just warming up, and then they'll literally, as soon as there's a threat, they can run straight back into the water. So from here, we'll spend the whole day here and we won't see them move around the waterhole. But September, July, August time, you might find them coming out of the water a bit more during the daytime just to warm up a little bit. So there doesn't seem to be too much life going on here. We are going to slowly start making our way down towards a slightly different section of the reserve and see what else has to offer this morning. The Allen twins are asking the difference between male and female hippos, and it's a bit tricky to see now. Maybe if I drive forward and get a closer view of them, but basically we're looking for the size of the mouth, and that's pretty much the biggest and the best way to tell the difference between them, because literally it will just sometimes be the mouth or the top of the head, so you've got the nose, the eyes and the ears sticking out. But you can tell the difference because the males having the big mouths trying to protect and look after their territory, like we were discussing a bit earlier, have got much, much bigger mouths than the females. So let's quickly see if Marcel want to turn around again to the hippos. Oh, there's a tiny, tiny, tiny little baby hippo. I literally just saw it pick up its head. See the one in the back there. So just look at the one in the middle and the one in the foreground, the Allen twins. Look at the difference in size there. I'm sure you might be able to see which one is bigger. This one in the foreground here is much, much bigger than the one at the back. So this one here is a male. Lots of muscle around the back of the neck there also. So those muscles are just helpful to open up the jaw and fight. And then the ones in the middle there are much smaller, so pretty much half the size of the head. I'd love to see that small little one again. I don't know if you can get that one at the back there, Marcel. See if we can see it pop up. You can see there's lots of ripples around the mother. And so this youngster is so small that it actually isn't able to stand or to float on the water. So it's literally taking a breath and then sinking down to the bottom, holding its breath, and then when it needs it will jump back up and take a breath and sink back down. Okay. the first 45 minutes of the show was dedicated to the kids. We now invite any viewer to send in their questions. I'm sure the email address will pop up, and you can send all of your questions into the email address you'll see on the screen shortly. Come on. So we'll see if we can get another view of this small little one. Look how, as soon as that one started to show interest, that female looked like she was starting to be a little bit more protective. And so she'll keep the youngster isolated just so it gets used to swimming and being around other hippos, and then slowly but surely start introducing the youngster into the rest of the pod. Cool. I believe you just got a quick view of the nose. I hope everyone got to see that. One is holding its breath, and I'm sure it's got its head down. It's probably just nudging and playing around with the calf now that it's down at the bottom. I'm sure the other two hippos are more curious. They want to meet the new addition. But that female will still be pretty protective over it. So just making sure that they keep their distance. So as we hang around waiting for these hippos to do something, maybe we get another view of the youngster. It seems like Trishala's also at a waterhole. So let's see what she has to offer there.
Oh, I really hope that hippo decides to take his stick out again. He's really good at playing with his stick. In fact, here at Treehouse Dam, where I am, the hyenas used to play with sticks here. I remember Tsaka and Comet, especially. But for now, the star at Treehouse Dam is none other than the Cape Turtledove. Sometimes ignored, but such a prominent bird in South Africa in general, all over the place. And in the bush, I don't think you can go a day without hearing this. That is the sound of the Cape Turtledove in the distance. Hello Dave, you're 14 years old. You'd like to know, are there any birds that you only hear in the morning? Not that I can think of. Most birds will prefer to call in the morning because, like I said, the air is cooler. And when the air is cooler, sound travels further, but not faster, just further. So most birds would prefer to call in the morning. But I don't know if there's one that specifically likes or specifically calls in the morning. Oh, this little one is drinking, Darby. Yeah. Oh, no, doesn't like Darby. Yes, I don't know if there's ones that specifically only call in the morning, but you can also ask James. James may know if there's a certain one that only calls in the morning. But most prefer to call in the morning. Middle of the day, you don't really hear too many of the birds. You will hear, most definitely, Cape Turtledove. You will hear starlings. Buntings really like the morning. Ground hornbills also really like the morning. But most birds do, because it means that their call can go for longer or further away. And that's important because birds also like to advertise that they're super cool and that the other females should come see them. So it's important for them to call at a time where they can be heard most. There doesn't seem to be too much else happening at this dam. Thought I saw a terrapin. Let's just watch and see if it comes up again. I can see the slight swirl of the water, but It's not popping its head up. Oh no. Now, this particular dam is not very, very productive. I haven't seen a lot of animals here. And it was interesting that I had the wild dogs come past here recently, and they didn't drink. And I actually wonder if... Are you popping your head up? Oh, there you go. Ah, hello. Hello, Terrapin. I actually wonder if the amount of maybe algae in the water, which terrapins would be fine with because they do need to come up for air. And you'll find that they themselves carry a lot of bacteria. Maybe there's so much bacteria in the water that it's become anoxic. Blue-green algae or cyanobacteria can do that when it becomes anoxic, and that means that there's not lots of oxygen in the water. So I wonder if that's happened here. But we wouldn't know until I do a test of some sort, for which I don't have a kit. Anyway, let me send you back over to the Henry, see if he's managed to spot any more little grebes.
No, not managed to spot much, I'm afraid. But that's all right. It's a lovely day. We're going to go and check the old den site here, just for the sake of it. There was a vague report that maybe someone had seen something going towards here. It's extremely vague. Anyway, we're right here, so we're going to have a look. Birds that call only in the morning. That's a very good question. And I quite like the suggestion of ground hornbills. I thought that was a good one. Nice one. Grey-headed sparrow call almost only in the morning. You will hear them sometimes in the day and sometimes in the evenings. A lot of birds, of course, are crepuscular callers, so they'll call morning and evening. But ground hornbills is a really good one. I think that I'm not sure how often I've heard them calling in the evening. I definitely have, but probably far less frequently than in the morning. So let's go with grey-headed sparrows, ground hornbills. The francolins definitely call morning and evening. The robins the same. Thrushes the same. A lot of birds middle of the day, bee-eaters, weavers, that sort of thing. Amy Moose says that this vehicle sounds like a tea kettle. This vehicle sounds like I imagine, sounds and smells like I imagine the bowels of hell sound and smell. It is extremely noisy and extremely smelly. Now we're just going to sneak very slowly around the corner here and check that there's nothing going on. Unfortunately, it also has the turning circle of an ox wagon, and so we must do a three-point turn just to turn a corner. That was stealth mode, everybody. I don't believe there's anything here. But we're going to have a look. I think someone fed us a porcupine. Not a porcupine, but I think they saw something else going in, and not a leopard cub. I mustn't forget that it's highly unlikely they'd be lying in plain view if they were here. so one must scan around the bushes. When did we find them? About 2.5 weeks ago. So in those 2 weeks they would have become a lot more mobile. Definitely be tree climbing by now. Could be staring at us from a branch not far away. Lauren, do you want to know what we're looking for? This is a very good question that I should have explained much earlier. What we're looking for is the cubs of a leopard. And the leopard's name is Tundi. She's got 2 cubs, which must be between 8 and 9 weeks old now. And we found them here about 2 weeks ago. And then we saw them once again that afternoon. And then that very evening, or 2 evenings later, sorry, they were removed from the area by their mother. We found her tracks and the tracks of the cubs, and she disappeared onto a reserve to the east of us, and we haven't seen her since. I don't think they're here. I see no obvious sign of them. I said to you, I'm just going to check the den, which must have been deeply confusing to some of you who are perhaps new viewers. I apologize for that. Also, we check the hyena den all the time. Lauren, you say Kay got it. Good, I'm glad you got it. I'm sorry I didn't explain it more clearly when we arrived. What's that, Aaron? Is that what your tummy?
No, just I think. Thanks.
Owen is convinced that there is nothing here. I am struggling to find any evidence to counter his conviction. Right, we're going to pull out of here. We'll head off towards the east, and while we do that, you'll go back to Ngala, where Eric is driving in the Timbavati.
All right, welcome back to Ngala. And as you can see, we are in the beautiful big Timbavati riverbed, and one of my favorite places to drive around in the whole reserve. And we're actually just passing by a waterhole, which is the last remaining surface water in this area, in the river, that we know of at least. And just looking for any sign of life. We actually heard from another ranger who was out and about this morning that he has just found a wildebeest carcass with no sign of bigger predators. Ooh, that's just a log. I thought it might have been the bum of an elephant. So we're actually going to make our way down towards that area, which will take us about 15 minutes or so to get there, and just see what's gone on there. It will be interesting to put the puzzle pieces together and figure out what is happening. It's starting to warm up a lot, so the vultures can potentially see it. We might get lots of vulture activity, and that might attract other animals like jackals and hyenas. And if there's any larger predators around in that area, they'll be sure to go and investigate to see if there's any free food. So that's our plan for the next 10 or 15 minutes or so. In the meantime, like I said, we thought we might just try the riverbed and look for any sign of leopard that might be around here. With all of these big, tall trees, it's a beautiful spot for a leopard to climb up and get the little bit of morning light. So Michael's asking about how dry or wet the park is, and in relation to the last 5 years, Michael, it's the wettest it has been, at least in the last 5 years or so. We've just come out of a very dry cycle, and we got over our average rainfall for the season. I think our average is probably about 450 and we're sitting on probably, I think the last figures were about 550 millimeters of rain in the season. So we've had a very, very good year, and the grass is nice and green. There's lots of surface water, so the animals, I'm hoping, are going to be nice and happy in our winter time. So yeah, it's been a very wet cycle, and it's raining at the end of April, which doesn't happen usually. Usually our rain stops in March, so we've had a month of light little drizzle, which is just, I guess, helping all of the grass keep its nutrients just for that little bit longer, for 2 or 3 days longer than it would have, and all these animals are appreciating it. I'm sure one of the biggest ones, the buffalo, is probably the one that is very appreciative of the grass being so green, and they were the most affected, large animal affected in the drought of 2014, 15, 16, and even 17. And there were herds of buffaloes that were just completely malnourished and skinny. They were really suffering, and the prides of lions in this area had a field day. There was a pride of lions in 2017 who in 1 month, in 30 days, killed 28 buffaloes between them. They were getting to the point where they'll just kill a buffalo, eat the best parts, which is on the rump, and the cubs would eat around the face, and then they'll move on to the next one. Sometimes you'll find lions who killed 4 buffaloes in a night, and just because they could. The buffaloes were weak, they couldn't defend themselves as much as they normally would. And so yeah, I'm sure these buffaloes are rejoicing that we've got lots and lots of rain and good grazing for them. There's some Impala that are coming back down towards the river. Now, so we're just about to come back out of the river into a road that will take us straight towards that wildebeest carcass. So we're going to send you back to Trishala in the meantime, and she's got a giraffe.
I do have a giraffe. This giraffe is just about to walk into Djuma. In fact, he just about has walked into Djuma. Luckily for us, we were hoping to find a leopard walking into Djuma, but we found a similarly colored animal. So I'm pretty happy with our giraffe. And you can see the ossicones on the head are quite bald, and there's an extra third little hump between them, kind of on its forehead. That's how we know it's a male. That's apart from the obvious reproductive organs that I will be able to see, and you will be able to see in a bit too. But for now, we're going to watch him strip the leaves off this very tasty Ziziphus, or buffalo thorn. The leaves are actually quite tasty. They taste a little like salad leaves, like spinach. But they can get bitter very quickly. Everyone's excited. They've been wanting a giraffe. I'm so glad. I'm sure Giraffe Girl's very glad too. Nothing like a nice giraffe sighting. Megan, you say giraffes seem so peaceful. They really do, Megan. They don't seem to have a problem with anything. I've occasionally seen a giraffe run. That's quite a spectacle. And the sound they make as they move is quite something too. So if you know a buffalo thorn tree, you'll know that it's got one hooked thorn, so the thorns occur in pairs on opposite sides of the actual branch, and one is hooked and one is straight. So if the straight one doesn't get you, the hooked one does. And I've been hooked by one of them like a fish, where I had 2 punctures, one where the hook went in and came out separately. It was very nasty. I've been attacked by some of these, or rather I've put myself in a position to be attacked by one of these trees very often. And it amazes me that giraffes with such ease eat from there. This is very interesting. Do you see how he ate from one side and now he's turned and moved to the other side of the tree? That's because as he eats, trees have defense mechanisms. They'll start to release volatile compounds. Those are compounds that easily evaporate into the air and let the trees around them and its actual own leaves know that there's a herbivore and it's under attack, which basically is what's happening. So the giraffe will move to a different portion of the tree where extra tannins and other volatile compounds have not been released yet. Because as that starts to happen, as he starts to eat at one particular spot, more tannins get released and the leaves get quite bitter. Then he'll move around to another spot and start eating there where it's still fresh and lovely, juicy. And then he'll move again around once tannins become released there. But during this whole time, those volatile compounds in the leaves, terpenes, are being released and the trees around it are already aware that there's a herbivore around. Release your tannins and other weapons. So easily. It learns and it combats those thorns. Steve, you'd like to know what species of giraffe this is. This is a Giraffa camelopardus or pardalis. It is a savanna giraffe, southern African. They have, yes, I was going to say South African, but it's southern African. He is beautiful, isn't he, Steve? He looks like he's put some gel on his mane and his back. Yeah, he's quite a modern giraffe. He's got some stylings done. Probably went to the same place that Ribbon went to yesterday. Now he's starting to move again just a little bit. He went lower. Can you imagine while you're eating something, the more you eat, the more bitter it starts to taste, and then you move around and you find a better spot. Tally-ho, you say it's fascinating that they keep moving like that? Isn't it just so fascinating that animals over time just learn so many things? Things become so natural to them. And they change to accommodate these environmental changes. For the benefit of their survival, it always has amazed me. There's a weaver's nest on one side that's just having the ride of its life, just opposite the giraffe. Did I tell you I once saw an elephant? That one's just getting a slight ride. There's one a little more to the left that's just being flung around there in the, in the middle there. There we go. I once saw an elephant pluck one of these and eat it. Look at that thing, it's being thrown around. Evacuate, evacuate. Oh, perhaps it's more like a roller coaster and they're used to it. Whoa! I just imagine wings inside, splayed, holding on to the corners. They've got really thick saliva, also with antibacterial properties. In fact, all of our saliva has antibacterial properties. It's in the form of a compound called lysozyme. And then we also have something called tissue factor, which clots really quickly if we get any little cuts. and so does this guy. But his is a lot more intense. And the thick bits of this, or the thickness of the saliva, allows him to swallow. Ah, Owen, this is exactly why. This is what I'm getting to. Why do the thorns not hurt the giraffe? Firstly, giraffes are very careful. Look at the lips. You can see they're very maneuverable. I can't help but explain this and do this with my lips too. They're very maneuverable, and they can be very precise, almost like the finger-like protrusions at the end of a trunk of an elephant. So they can be very precise. Besides that, the long tongue is very strong. It's quite dark, and that has to do with the fact that it's got a lot of melanin in it. That's the dark pigment that we see in mammals. Melanin can also strengthen anything from skin to feathers to a tongue. And that means that he's got a nice, tough, leathery tongue. Now, apart from that, the saliva I was telling you about is so thick that it can actually coat any thorns that do get down its throat. It can coat it so well that it will not hurt it. Even if it does, those other factors will help to heal. Anyway, thank you very much, Mr. Giraffe. We're going to send you now over to Eric at andBeyond's Ngala, because he has found something very special where he's been searching.
We were just about to get to that wildebeest carcass I mentioned, and out on the road popped this lioness that I'm sure you can just see. There she is, which is absolutely incredible. And we were watching her for a few minutes, and she literally just started trying to hunt a Swainson spur fowl, which was a bit odd. I mean, she's just managed to kill a wildebeest, or she's trotting a lot. So it must have been her, and maybe she was just resting in the bushes nearby, so the other rangers didn't get to see her. But she's looking really nice and full. Moving away from the carcass now, which might seem a little bit strange, but this is the lioness who we suspect has got cubs somewhere in the riverbed. So she could, after a really nice big meal, she could be heading in that direction. Maybe go and check up on the cubs, make sure they're all right, and maybe give them something to suckle. So she's moved into quite a dense area. Luckily, it does open up a lot on the other side. And so we might just loop around and try and see her. I'm so excited we got to find her. My dad was starting to lose faith in me. He was asking if I was ever going to be able to find some lions. So I'm just going to try and get around the edge of these thickets and get to a nicer, more open clearing and see if that lioness isn't going to come right out into the middle there. So Shannon's asking if it's dangerous to be in the wild like this, and Shannon, absolutely not. On a vehicle you are perfectly safe. And the reason we're safe is that these animals are completely used to the vehicles. It's a slightly different situation. Okay, I've just got another view of her there on the left. It's a bit different, Shannon, if you are walking by yourself and you don't have any experience on how to approach and find animals on foot. That can be potentially dangerous, but at the end of the day, these animals aren't here to try and kill us or try and harm us. They're also just trying to survive. And so they tend to avoid confrontation as much as possible, which makes it very safe for us to be around. Okay, so the last time I saw her was straight up over there. Maybe just wait here and we should see the movement crossing. Here she comes. She's going to come straight in front of us. Oh, and the lighting is so beautiful. Just look at that tummy. She is huge. A bit earlier on this morning, we were talking about how a wildebeest is enough to sustain quite a large pride of lions, and she's caught one all by herself. And so there's lots of meat to go. I think she probably hasn't fed on half of it yet. Oh, it's so beautiful. The lighting is amazing. So a bit strange to see a lioness like this by herself, and a few viewers are asking if she's just a lone lioness or if she's part of a pride. And the reason why she is by herself is because we suspect that she's denning and she's got cubs. So she's moved away from her maternal pride, and this is the first time that she's denned. So she's keeping the cubs nice and safe. They're too small to, well, if she does have cubs, they're a little bit too small to follow the pride, especially because the pride moves very long distances. I think I might even go across to the next road even. And so this lioness, if she hears the pride calling in the night, she might go and visit them for a little bit. But ultimately she wants to look after her cubs. And so she will keep the cubs separate from the pride for at least 2 months or so. And once the cubs start to get a little bit bigger and a bit more confident when they start moving around, then she'll slowly but surely start introducing them to the rest of the pride. And the reason she wants to do it slowly is there's often older cubs within the pride, and these cubs, although they might not mean it, will be quite malicious, or not malicious. They're not malicious at all, actually. They're more curious. And so they'll probably play around, and they might be a little bit too rough for a very small cub. It might cause some serious injury towards the cubs. And so she'll almost like introduce them for a day, then take them away, then come back, until eventually the cubs get more and more comfortable with being around more lions. Okay, so there's an Impala here who looks very, very alert. Can you see her, Marcel? Okay. Absolutely indigo girl. She's got beautiful eyes. She's a very, very beautiful lioness. She's got fantastic genetics. Her mothers are ginormous, and she's almost as big. There we go, quick little view of her. And it's amazing, these Impalas are locked onto that lioness, but they haven't alarm called at all. So they're watching her behavior, noticing that she's walking quite quickly, and probably hoping that they will go by unnoticed. Oh, there we go. They both alarm called at exactly the same time. So they must have seen a slight behavioral change in her, and maybe it was her walking straight towards them that freaked them out. Okay, she's going to come out on the left-hand side of the bush there. There we go. Oh. It's so awesome to see them. I mean, it's we've had an hour and a half of light already, and she's still moving around. It's awesome. Okay, so again, I'm just going to try and get in front of her a little bit and just watch her walking towards us. So another nice open gap over here. I know the sun isn't perfect. How's that, Marcel? Good? Oh. Sniffing around that termite mound there. I wonder if something might have marked. Oh. She's got such amazing features, this lioness. And she's got a very, very clean face, and not very many cuts or scars or anything around the bridge of her nose, or no notches on the ears. So she's still very young. And just look at her muscles. Oh, look what she's doing. So you see a little wee and a quick scrape on the back of her leg. So a quick mark of the territory. One thing I love watching with lions when they're walking is how their shoulder blades move, how they move up and down like that. It's even more exaggerated when they're in a typical stalking position. Those shoulder blades move up and down a lot. Just look at the size of her paws. I mean, she is really, really big. And she's just walked into a herd of impalas who are all alarm calling at her. You might hear the alarm calls. So Chris is asking if she is the sister of the the male within the pride that we find here? And yes, she is. So she comes from exactly the same mother, the same father. They've spent the last 4 years with each other. And that male is surprisingly still with the pride, which, oh, there you go, another mark of the territory, lifting up the tail. So she was aiming at that bush, but completely missed it, all fell on the ground. And one of the reasons why she chose that bush in particular is it's a bush called a magic guarri. And it's a bush that's got very high tannin levels, which means that not very many animals eat it. And so her scent is going to stay on there for a lot longer than it would if it would scent mark on an acacia or a vaquilla, where giraffe, elephants, a whole bunch of things eat it and potentially take her scent away. Yeah, so her brother is still with the pride of lions that he grew up with, and there's bound to be a time that he's going to get kicked out. We keep saying it's going to happen, and eventually he leaves the pride, but he keeps coming, and he manages to find his way back into the pride. So those males are surprisingly tolerant of him, which I wouldn't have thought would have happened. I thought he would have been kicked out from the age of 2.5, 3 years old, but he's managed to hold on. And have a look at her paws. I mean, you'll see the front paws are much bigger than the back. Yeah, so that's something that we're trying to work out. Peter is, she's potentially got the gene. I mean, her mother gave birth to a white cub. She's mated with one of the males that carries the white gene. And so if the gene has passed from her mother down to her, then there's a 25% chance of one of her cubs turning white. So there's the potential, but I mean, it's such a rare occurrence that I think that there's a good chance that the gene wasn't passed on. We're just going to have to see. I mean, it'll be very, very interesting to find out. Ooh, I think my call got cut. I love how that tail is just swishing from side to side, side to side. And just look at how black... Oh, she's cut off the road there. Oh, okay. He's still with us. So I was just pointing out the tail. Yeah, walking quite fast and then occasionally a little trot. So that's why I'm trying to give her as much space as we possibly can whilst watching her. But I think she knows exactly where she wants to go, and she's walking in a straight line. So she just wants to probably get to the den site, I would suspect. So that's why I'm trying to do my best to follow her and also not put too much pressure on her, just to make sure she realizes that we're not going to disturb her in any way. So there might come a time where she's moving through a very, very dense area here, and if we were to try and follow her, we'll be crashing over branches and bushes and making lots and lots of noise, and that also might just force her to trot further and further away from us. So if that's the case, then what we'll do is just loop around to the next road, which isn't too far away. Sure thing. So whilst we're following this lioness and giving her as much space as she needs, we're going to quickly send you back to Trishali, who's got some elephants. Hopefully see you soon.
Yay, I do. I have some elephants. I'm so excited. Look at these two little ones. My trunk needs a rest. I wonder if these two are the twins, because they are following the same cow. Oh, I need a rest. Somebody help me. They are quite tiny, I must say. Let's see if I think they're about a year. They don't pass under mum. Or they probably just fit under mum at the moment. are quite little. You can see that their skin isn't even quite as wrinkly yet as everybody else's. So we were actually waiting at our boundary where we saw a huge bull, and then the bull decided that he doesn't like us and walked away. And then we saw these guys come out behind us, so maybe the bull will follow them. Really tall females. Oh, look at that. Yes, get used to news. Ah, Indigo Girl, you say if these are the twins, then they're part of. Then I should look for Short Trunk because it was Short Trunk's herd. I will do that. I haven't seen her yet. Oh, that was very weird. I saw an extra appendage coming out of this female, and I thought that's very strange. One that was further back, and I realized she had a little one behind her with the trunk doing that. Hello guys, what a lovely relaxed herd. Okay, so far I don't see Short Trunk. So let's see if the two little ones continue to follow the same cow. Perhaps they were just walking together. Oh, if we're very quiet, we might be able to hear some rumblings. Not those rumblings, that is the rumbling of another vehicle. Got a little wave from this little one. Hello. Oh, I felt very honored there because I was right here and she decided to actually shake her head. Oh. Whoa. That's power. That is power. She didn't even need it, she just walked through it. It was in her way. Oh, everyone's stuffing their mouths. How awesome. I love to see them like this. It's like they just have a feast. Plenty of food all around. Everyone's happy. Melissa, you'd like to know if it's rare for elephants to have twins? It certainly is. Not impossible, as we've actually seen, as there's many accounts of it as well. But it is rare. Just remember, an elephant is pregnant for 22 months. Carrying two calves in that body for 22 months is a huge strain on the body of an elephant. Huge strain. There's a reason why we can only keep a baby within us for a limited period of time, and that's because, without sounding horrible to any babies out there, it is pretty much a parasite-host relationship in the nicest way possible. In the nicest way possible. In that the baby feeds off mum, and she can only take it for a certain amount of time. Now, for each animal, it's a different amount of time that she can take it for. And I just want to move down there because there seems to be a bit of water, and I see some splashing. Well, not a lot of splashing, just a little bit. Let's just move like this. Everyone's very, very calm, so that's nice. Just around there, Davi, where the little one's gonna go now. Yes, so there's only so long that an animal can be in the body taking nutrients from the host. And there's so many things that affect that. The type of placenta that you have. There's different types of placenta that you can have. Our placenta, for example, is the most invasive type. It has direct blood supply, in contact with direct blood supply of the mother and the fetus, so the fetus can literally pull from the mother's blood. And all that kind of thing is a huge strain on an animal's body. So having twins, and that is twins that are at least 100 kgs each or so, possibly a little less because there'll be two of them inside mum. The amount of food that she'll have to eat to sustain that is just going to be exorbitant. So it is quite rare. Oh, fantastic! James has a crocodile at Chitwa Dam. Let's go over.
Here is a crocodile at Chitwa Dam, which is fantastic. There it is. It is a very large crocodile. One of our old favorites. What did we call them? Vlad and... I forget what the other one was. Boris and Vlad. And one of them, I think Boris, is missing the tip of the tail, if I'm not mistaken. That's how we know the difference. Ugh. Boris or Vlad trawling the waters here for catfish or anything else that might come into the water for a swim. Whereupon Boris or Vlad shall submerge and then attack. That is a big crocodilo. People often ask what is the most dangerous animal in Africa, and my normal response is a mosquito, because of course it is the carrier of malaria. But if there is a large animal that I consider genuinely dangerous, in other words, not potentially dangerous but actually dangerous, it's this thing. Because if you get into the water, it will think nothing of going for you. Yeah, Black Widow does give me the heebie-jeebies, and I can just feel the Twitter sphere about to start a strong defense of the crocodile. I am not for 1 second suggesting the crocodile is evil in any way, but it is an animal you'd have to be quite careful of if you were to be anywhere near a rural waterway in Africa. And then we have got some hippopotami. Naturally, the inevitable squawking Egyptian ghouls. And something I haven't chatted about a lot of late is the general kind of the fact that crocodiles and hippos occur throughout rural Africa and definitely outside of protected areas is an interesting one. Wherever there is water, there is potentially a crocodile or a hippopotamus. And I've told some of you this before, but in rural areas, obviously in South Africa, people don't have swimming lessons or anything like that, so there's no formal swimming. But along the coastlines where you have rural populations, everybody swims. So the Xhosas down where my parents live, they all swim in the river. Highly competent swimmers, never had swimming lessons in their lives before. But you'll find inland rural areas, people don't swim and struggle to swim as adults because they haven't learned as kids. And they haven't learned as kids because you stay away from the water in rural Africa. You don't go near inland water sources to swim or kind of use them recreationally, because the chances of being snaffled by a crocodile or possibly even a hippo very high. And I always thought that's quite interesting. And I remember when I first saw the Xhosa guys leaping into the river down in Kenton and thinking to myself, I wish I could swim like that. And then later on I had cause to think about why it is that inland rural people in South Africa don't swim, and that must be why. I'm convinced of it. Bit of a display there from our Egyptian gooses. You know, I think the Egyptian goose is a little bit like the Impala of the sky. They are enormously entertaining, actually, if you take the time to watch them. But we just kind of drive past them because there's so many of them. They also make a noise that is very unpleasant. Yes, Benji, that's a good question. All the way from Australia. Absolutely, hippos are stronger than lions. They're much, much bigger, you know. Lions weigh a very, 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 very big lion weighs about 250 kilograms. And a very, 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 very big hippo weighs about 2,500 kilograms. So about 10 times the size. And so, yes, hippos are much stronger than lions. But you see, lions hunt in groups. So if a hippo is ever hunted by a lion, it won't be one lion that hunts it. It'll be many lions and probably a small hippo. But that doesn't happen very often. Let's go back to Eric and his lioness now. We are going to continue, I think, probably off towards the west of Chitwa and then back on to Djuma.
So we have just come back down into the riverbed where we are looking for this lioness. We managed to see her crossing from the right-hand bank to the left-hand bank, and then she disappeared to the left of us. And one of the things that we may be slightly a little bit worried about, and giving this lioness as much space as she needs, is this troop of baboons that's right here. So she saw them. The baboons haven't seen her. They're all going about their day as nothing's happened. But this lioness was showing a lot of interest in her, in these baboons, and they would probably consider baboons like this as a threat, especially to some young cubs. That's why we're just trying to give as much space as possible to try and let this play out as naturally as we can. So I'm sure there's been a lot of viewers that saw a video that went viral about 2 months ago now of a big male baboon that caught a very, very small, tiny lion cub who was probably only 2 or 3 days old, and that is phenomenally rare. I think this lioness's cubs are probably close to a month old, and so they're probably big enough for these baboons not to really do anything. And those lion cubs will know that if the mother's not there, they're unsafe, so they're just going to sit quietly, dead still, and not reveal themselves by moving around too much. And we've been watching these baboons. They're literally just looking for things to feed, so they've been crossing the riverbed. They've been picking at little grass seeds and little leaves. There's no sign of agitation whatsoever. So I think as it stands, everything is perfectly fine, and nothing's really going on with hopefully nothing's going on with the lion cubs. Kirst is just saying that one baboon has got a massive stomach. So I agree with you, she's huge. I wonder if she might not be pregnant, maybe. I'll err on the side of caution and not ask her. Yeah, I'm going to see if we can get a view of this lioness. I mean, she she was crossing over this bank, and I mean we wouldn't be able to drive up there with the vehicle, so we'll just have to try and drive around and look down a channel. It's actually quite a cool view of those baboons. And if you're wondering if they're relaxed or not, that's going to give you a pretty clear indication. There's one that's lying down, getting groomed by another one. So, I mean, these ones don't think that anything is happening whatsoever. For a lioness to hunt a baboon, it's one of those risk versus reward. Is it worth risking expending all of that energy and killing a baboon? Is it going to give her enough meat for her to sustain herself and, I guess, acquire the energy that she's spent on hunting the baboon? And I think not, especially because she's just had a fresh wildebeest kill, so she's got no need to try and hunt them. Maybe try and chase them away, but she won't physically expend all of that energy trying to hunt these baboons. What I'm surprised about is usually there's a sentry within the troop, so one that will be sitting up on a very high branch looking, and there doesn't seem to be any this morning. And I mean, if there was one, they would definitely have seen that lioness, and there would be quite a lot of noise and agitation and nervousness that's happening with the troop. Whoopsie. It would be rather embarrassing if I stalled at this moment. Are we coming onto the other bank where we might be able to scan down and have a look to see where this lioness is? We're not off-roading around her. We're just trying to remain as sensitive as we possibly can around this lioness, so she feels that she's not being put under pressure by us. So if she has disappeared and moved into a bush, that's the last we'll see of her this morning. Okay, cool. So this troop of baboons is now walking straight across the river, more running away from us than anything. A couple of babies on the mother's backs, which is very cool. We're going to send you back to some other young animals with Trishala.
Our little Ellies are so playful. Look at them. Ooh, I want a space. So there's a really, really tiny water hole there. A tiny one. In fact, when they use their little trunks, oh, someone's got it. The little trunk had pulled that little tail just now. The youngish cow is just like, what? Am I in the way? You guys stop fighting. Just play mounting. Oh, on the ground. Oh. Oh, goodness, what is going on here? A bit scared and a bit hurt. Doesn't stop the other youngsters. It's interesting to see if anyone gets shouted at. Okay. There we go. There comes one of the females. Trying to figure out what's going on here. Why did one of the babies shout? Let's see who gets in trouble now. Oh, look at him, look at him. So interesting. Don't worry, Mama, it wasn't us. So I'm just going to check. Did you do something to my baby? If you did something to my baby, I'm going to be very upset with you. No, I didn't do anything to your baby, don't worry. Oh, here's the big matriarch. See how tall she is. She is huge. Now usually what they'll do is there'll be two old large females within the herd, or if there are two, generally, you'll find that one will lead the herd and one will actually bring up the rear. But this largest one we saw now is the tallest, and she's, like I said, the largest, and she looks like the oldest. I don't know if you heard that, but that was her rumbling at me. So I'm quite sure that that one there is the matriarch. Well, they've moved now. Too much playful time. Too much. There's now somebody's cried. There's been an accident, an injury. Time to go. No more playtime. All right. But there is still playtime happening at andBeyond's Ngala with Eric, and it's with some baboons. Let's go and see how their playtime compares to this playtime.
We've been watching these baboons very, very closely just to see if they are giving off any signs that they might have seen that lioness. I mentioned there could potentially be a sentry that might be looking out for the protection of the troop, but we haven't seen any sign of them becoming quite nervous. So we are just watching them, and they're behaving really cool. They're spending their morning greeting one another and grooming, so they've just woken up and they're starting their day foraging. Some really, really young ones that are full of energy and irritating some of the big males. A few of them, I don't know if you can see, climbing right up that tree, and they make it look so effortless. Ooh. So, baboon on honeymoon there, want of a better word. This big male here was very interested in the female. Lucky we didn't get that on camera. And there's a really, really small one. Let's see if on the back of the mum. There it goes. That is awesome. It looks so sleepy. It's rubbing its eyes. It doesn't really want to get going for the morning. Yeah. That's awesome. And look at the tail, underneath the tail of that one female. So she's displaying herself. The whole troop has moved off except for two that are in the riverbed, and one looks like it's sleeping whilst the other one is combing through its coat. It's all important getting these little social moments between each troop member, so they'll all have time to groom and pick off little ticks and parasites amongst them. I suppose it also just strengthens that bond. I believe everyone enjoyed the view of that baby riding on the mom's back. It's very cool to see, and I mean, you don't get to see it too often. And they're amazing how well they can hold on to the mothers. I mean, the mothers will be running at full speed, and the youngsters just put their head down, grip on with their front arms onto the hair, and they just hold on for dear life as this mother's running. I don't know if you heard that, but that was definitely a male calling. He's done that once, so I think it was probably just a warning to some of the troop members. Not really a warning that there's a predator in the area. The rest of the troop is also completely relaxed as well, so maybe he's just getting annoyed by all of these hyperactive youngsters. I'm actually just going to quickly turn, because the rest of the troop looked like they were walking up the bank, but they've actually just come back behind us in the riverbed, so there's a lot of them we'll be able to see quite nicely. There's some classic ones that are sitting on their bums with their legs resting on their knees. Oh, that is very cool. Nancy's asking if a lion will actively hunt a baboon to catch and kill it, and they might. I think I was just discussing a little bit about the risk versus reward, and is it worth chasing a baboon and potentially catching it versus the amount of meat that it will get from it. And I suspect that if a lion is moving through an area, it will more chase baboons out of curiosity. Maybe the youngsters might spend more time hunting baboons than the adults. But it's much better to expend that energy on catching and killing something like a zebra or a wildebeest, where if you catch something, you've got a lot more meat on offer. And so you've got a lot more reward for the risk that you've expended. I think also one of the things is this troop, if they happen to see a lioness or even a male lion, they'll become very aware. They'll know that it's a significant danger to them. And one of the first things that they'll do is just climb up to the very top of the trees. And a lion being so powerful or so heavy, they don't really have that strength to power ratio or weight to power ratio that a leopard does. So they won't be able to climb up to the very top of the trees to hunt the baboons. See, it's really cool. You got the one view or one baboon in view, and then right at the back, you can just see how many of them are coming down into the river. And like I said, they're starting off very slowly this morning, so grooming one another, spending time with everyone. I really like the posture of these big male baboons, how they just sit on their bums with their arms resting against their knees, just contemplating life. Female looking for a bit of attention. She didn't really get much. She almost went down and turned herself around, so probably trying to get that female or that male to show a bit of interest in her, and trying to get herself cleaned. There's the big male that was alarm calling every now and again, or shouting, at least, not really alarm calling. It's just come down the top of the tree. And then there, Marcel, another youngster on the mother's back, bit further to the right. Yeah, that one is even smaller, I think. It is tiny. See, it's got that racing mode grip. Anna-Marie, you saying that it's a pretty big troop, and I agree with you. I think it's huge. I just don't know the exact amount that's in it. But I mean, if I had to guess, maybe close to maybe 40 individuals, which is very, very big for a troop. I mean, that just goes to show that resources are good at the moment. They're happy being in large numbers like this. I'm sure if there were fewer and fewer resources, there'd be more competition for food. Oh, that youngster got a big fright. Oh, and their ears are ginormous at this age, and they're pink. It's doing pretty well. I mean, it can run quite nicely. Pretty wary of that big male, though. It doesn't want the male to get too close. Oh, no ways. It's riding the male. I don't think I've ever seen that before. It's literally just latched onto the tummy of the male. That's insane. Oh, another female showing herself off to that male. Ew. I think what's really cool is that the male's tolerating it and allowing it to happen. So it must happen often. I've never seen it myself. That's really cool. That baby looks like it's just about to lose its grip. There you go. Oh, that's awesome. No, it's feeling sorry for itself. It's nice to see that Yeah, I was actually just about to get into that question. So people are asking if that might be the father. And I mean, I think it's very difficult to tell. Within a troop of baboons, there'll be a few big dominant males who form some sort of alliance, and they work together for the protection of the protection of the troop, at least. And so I think, they not only share the responsibility for looking after and protecting, but they also share mating rights. And there will be some competition, but I don't think one female will only mate with one male baboon. The best chances for her to fall pregnant is to mate with as many males as possible, and she'll probably move around and mate with a few different males, I would suspect. And so, I mean, that also just means that if a male sees a youngster, he's got some sort of connection to it. He knows that he's mated recently, there's a baby, potentially it's his, I guess. Yeah, now it's picking up a piece of dried up elephant dung. Sarah's asking me to guess the age of this little one, and see, there's another one that's picked it up. And that one's definitely not the mother. I don't really know how to age baboons well. I have noticed that the ears aren't really that pink. And so I think it might be, I mean, if I were to throw out a number, which would be a big guess. So don't count me on this being accurate, but probably in the region of a month or two old, something like that. I don't know if anyone has a proper way of aging baboons. I'd really love to know. I haven't really come across anything that I've seen before. It's definitely the youngest one in the troop, and I suppose it being so young, it's lots of individuals want to greet it and say hello to it, and so they're coming by and picking it up. I'd love to know where the mother is, and I think that one could be the mother because it's chasing away one of the young ones that try to pick it up. But then again, it's not really going straight back to the youngster. Black Widow, I will happily follow this baby for 8 hours for you, if we can keep up. It's going and grooming that big male. Amazing that they know how to do that at such a young age, and I suppose a lot of that is from watching the rest of the troop, and so I don't think they're actually taught how to do it, but they just look and they see the behavioral changes. There's a lioness. The lioness is there on the right. Look at the change in baboons. I just got a glimpse of that lioness. Yo, what a morning we're having. And thankfully those baboons were there to tell us about it, because I would have missed that completely. My heart is racing. So I saw her crossing. Like, you just have to just have to start thinking like, is this the moment? Is this the moment that she's going to show her cubs to us? Oh, goodness. Yeah, it's a good point. Marcel's saying that she hasn't really passed water recently, so she could have just had a brief suckle of the cubs and potentially going to have something to drink. And there is water very close by here, so that's a pretty solid bet if I were a betting man. You see anything there, Marcel? Okay. We are very, very, very close to that pan, so let's quickly go back. We might end up just looping around. And I'm sure if she is walking towards that water hole, she'll have something quick to drink and then she'll probably return to the river. So maybe we see her crossing again. Alrighty, so we're gonna link back to James and see what he's up to this morning. I'm not sure, or I think we're not going to be moving around very far for now, so I'm sure we'll see you soon.
Yes, I cannot remember the last morning that I had where I saw so little. We have seen 2 kudu, those Impala that we started with. Otherwise, that's it. Oh well. I wish we'd have a baboon sighting like that. It's very interesting that the youngster was climbing on the male, but it's not actually that unusual. We tend to think of it as being unusual, but if you read about baboon behavior, you may well find that male is trying to get favor with the mother. Could be a brother, a related, or an uncle or something, so it could be quite closely related to the youngster. It's unlikely that it's the dominant male, but it's not impossible. What do you got there? A what? An animal? No, it's a bird. Well done, Owen. Good grief. It is a towny eagle. Ooh. Now there's something special. Well spotted, Owen. A towny eagle. Now, one was looking for the batelier in attendance as well, in order to confirm that there must be a dead thing close by. Maybe there's a dead thing close-ish by. There's a roller above us making a noise. JS, we would try and find a steenbok, and we have seen some steenbok in the last few days, but what happens is that you put the camera on them and then they look at the camera briefly. And if you're then going to try and get a link from, especially if it's coming from Ngala or Karongwe, because there's a very slight delay, about 5 or 6 seconds, and the steenbok has normally disappeared by the time it realizes it's going to be on television. But we can try. We'll try. Right, the towny eagle is flying away, or getting better vantage. You're going to go back to Eric and his lioness.
You reckon this one here? Okay, so we are coming back to the river, and the reason why we have done so is we got another glimpse of this lioness, and she was crossing from one bush to another, and so she walked in one direction. We caught her disappearing into the bush, and then she turned and walked again. And so we are suspecting, and we are hoping, and we are praying that she could be moving her cubs from one den site to another, which would make sense. She might feel sharp left, like that. Okay, sorry, we're just trying to get into a good position where you'll be able to see as best without getting the antenna in the way. And so, I mean, with the troop of baboons, maybe she thought it was a good time to... Is that fine? Cool. And so we're just going to sit tight and we're going to wait. My head obviously is in the way. It's such a big head, it does get in the way a lot. There she is, there she is. Look at it. She's got a cub. She's got a cub. No ways. Look at that. No ways. This is insane. Guys, this is incredible. No way. I can't tell you how incredible. I've gone dumb. I'm shaking. I've got goosebumps. I don't want to show my face. That is just incredible. That, oh my goodness, you're going to hear me saying this a lot. I can't actually talk right now. Oh my word. They are tiny, tiny, tiny little lions. Oh. Jeepers creepers. So this is, like we've been saying the whole time, this is a lioness who is, at the moment, she is, this is her first litter. You can hear me, my brain's gone completely fried. I can't put a sentence together anymore. But this is her first litter of cubs, and she's done incredibly well to keep them alive until this point. But we're still just going to treat her with the utmost respect, and we're going to give her as much distance as she needs. So we're not going to get any closer, and I'm not going to go and try and see where she's left the cubs. And the nice thing is we've got this beautiful 50-meter gap where she can cross over, and we'll be able to see it. Kelly said my dad's going to be so proud. Hopefully. I think he's gone to work now, so he might have missed this whole thing. But I was just drawing the suspense, this is drive number 5 for me. Hadn't seen a lion with you yet, and just wanted to make the first one a special one, and we've been able to do that for sure. My head's getting in the way again. Sure, this is... So she's moved once and came back, and we saw her moving across a second time, and so that is, as far as we know, that's 2 cubs. Now, thanks everyone. I'm so glad we got to share this moment with all of you. Michael, I can guarantee you I would have passed out if she was carrying a white cub. This is, in my 5 years of being a guide, this is literally the second time that I've ever seen this happen before. And so, yeah, I don't know what I would have done. Just the way that it's all played out, from seeing her walking away from that wildebeest, to following her all the way down to this area, to seeing the troop of baboons and worrying. Yeah, I think that was exactly it. She probably felt that they could potentially cause damage to her cubs. I mean, they are still very, very small. And so she saw those baboons, and when we watched her, She wasn't actively running in and trying to chase them away. She was actually being very sneaky about it. So what she was doing is just trying to make sure that the baboons didn't see her, so that she could get to the last area where she had her cubs, and just make sure that they're all okay. And I think she probably just got a little bit freaked out, and that's why she decided to move them across. And I mean, it's perfectly natural. That's what they do. They move from den site to den site because it's the smell isn't concentrated in one point, or it does get concentrated. So she needs to move it to prevent that smell from becoming too strong, where baboons might easily be able to smell it and go and investigate.
So Kirst, we gave you a baby baboon and baby lion. How many points do we have?
Sure. It's just the way. So that's the thing. I mean, when we were watching, and we were watching the baboons, and immediately the behavior of the baboons changed, and that's what turned my attention to down this side of the river. And that's when I saw her disappearing, literally just disappearing into the bushes. And I think that was probably the first time that she moved one of the cubs. And then we found her coming back, and then obviously we had that beautiful view of her moving across the riverbed back again. And so I think she's only come back and forth twice, so that would be 2 cubs that she's moved. I unfortunately didn't see the first one, but I don't know if it was a white one or not. I think our idea is good. I mean, we in a spot. This is the only channel that we could possibly see, and if she does come back, then we'll know for sure that she's coming back to fetch another one. So we're just standing by and waiting for now. Oh, but I was saying, just to follow the whole event and the story of her is amazing. So Rue's asking how far is she likely to move them? And I wouldn't imagine she'll move them too far. I mean, from the moment that we saw her the first time to her coming back was probably only a few minutes. And so she probably just, I would suspect that she probably went to go and investigate a suitable spot first, to go and have a look. And then she would find the spot, and then she would come back and move them. So she would travel the shortest time possible to the new den, where she wouldn't have to walk around with the cub being exposed and more at risk of being in danger. So she would go from one spot straight to another, and it would probably be meters-wise, maybe between 50 to 100 meters away. That would be enough to deconcentrate the smell of the lions. It's just amazing to think like that lioness last night killed a wildebeest, and she would have killed it by gripping her teeth around the throat of the wildebeest and squeezing. And now she's come to the point where she's just using those jaws so delicately to pick up the cub and move it from one point to another. So completely contrasting ways of using those sharp teeth. But Greg was asking how long will she and the cubs stay away from the rest of the pride, and it depends on her, on what she feels, but it's usually between 2 and 3 months, and it won't be like a big meet and greet and then that's them. They'll be with the pride for maybe a day or two, get the other members to meet them and to greet them, and then they'll move, or she'll take them away again. And from maybe about 4 or 5 months old is when they'll probably be with the pride for the most part. There'll be a time where if they're walking too far or if they've gone hunting, they'll leave them in one spot, maybe leave them with an adult to look over them, but sometimes they just leave them by themselves. and then go off and hunt. Once they've caught something, they'll come back and fetch the cubs. So from 6, 7, 8 months old, they're pretty much following the pride around every single day. But for now, it's another 2 or 3 months or so before we start seeing that introduction. So, I mean, we're not going anywhere whatsoever. So we're just wanting to wait and see if she does come back. And if she does, I'm sure we'll quickly come back here so we can see if she moves another cub or not. But in the meantime, we're going to send you across to Trishala.
That sounds amazing. That is absolutely awesome. Now here we are with Ribbon. Hopefully she'll have her cubs out soon too. But I think that they're probably asleep in the nice warmth of the day as it starts to really warm up. But at least she's here. Still looking good, looking fluffy. Very nice. She's obviously gotten some time to herself now. To take care of herself. Now that she's allowed these 2 little balls of fluff of hers to roam around a little bit. But I do think that they're probably asleep. I was actually hoping that the other youngsters would be around, Swazi and Bailey, Sutu, because they were just amazing last night. I so really, or not really, but when something becomes your job, you do it all the time, and obviously there's you viewers, and we're doing it for you, and there's all of that kind of takes over. And last night, when the 3 last set of cubs, 3 from last year, or actually last year, and some year before, when they came along and they were sniffing my feet and licking this cord and all of that, you couldn't really see because it was so close to me that the camera couldn't quite get it. And it was such a wonderful personal moment. It was such a beautiful moment for me. It just felt like it was mine. It was mine and the hyenas, and absolutely loved it. And it just did something in me again. Sometimes you need a little reminder. And I know it's amazing to be out here and do this work. But a lot of the times it's not just me. It's you guys, it's me, it's the director, it's the cameraman, it's the animal, and they're all working together to do a fantastic job. And it's sometimes really nice to have those few personal moments where you feel it's just yours. But now I've shared it with you, but that's okay. I wanted to, because that feeling is something I've really got to hold on to, and I'm sure some of you experience it too. When you're at home and you see a certain look in the animal's face or eyes, and you feel that somehow you're connected to them. So I was a little bit greedy and decided I'm going to come back here and try to steal the moment again. But of course it doesn't work like that. But I tried anyway. There's some warthogs hemming about.
Much can a fully grown hyena weigh? Relic?
Hello, Relic. You're 8 years old. You want to know how much a fully grown hyena can weigh? A fully grown hyena can weigh about 80 kgs, 80 to 90 kgs for a female. 90 kgs is definitely on the sort of extreme end. I think when they're fully fed, large matriarch female can be about 90. But generally it's about 80 kgs for a female. Males are much less. They're more around 60 to 70 kgs. Quite dense animals in terms of muscle, not in terms of brain function. When it comes to brain function, I think that they are really, really ahead of the game. Hi, Reppy. You'd like to know if these termites are still active in the mound where these hyenas are. They can be active in certain parts. Now, this particular mound, it doesn't look very active, and I can tell because if it was, you would see little chimneys, little openings, and you'd also see activity in terms of parts being closed off and parts being opened up. So at least on this side, it doesn't seem like it's active. On the other side, perhaps it is. I haven't had a good look. But most of the time, termites will actually share the mound with whichever animal is deciding to use it as a home. But they don't generally use the same parts. And termites don't always need to use a certain part of the mound or the entire mound. They can build certain bits around on top, and that will be where the major kind of business of the termite will be conducted. The rest of the area is pretty much real estate for many, many animals. From warthogs, porcupines, mongoose, squirrels sometimes if they feel like it, hyenas. Lots and lots of different animals. It's quite interesting to see with mongoose. I see it quite a lot where you'll have one side of the mound that's quite active with termites. And you can see new chimneys being built. You can see that the soil will actually be slightly darker because it's being taken out from the ground and pushed up. While the mongoose is still playing on one side. Davi, I have a friend here. I'm not sure what type of spider it is because it's very tiny. But perhaps your camera will help us. Man, I thought it might have been a jumping spider and had nice big eyes, but I don't see any eyes. Oh well. Hello from the spider at the den on my steering wheel. Well, Ribbon, as you can see, is not doing much, but I may sit with her for a little bit longer, and I'll send you over to James at a waterhole. Hopefully you'll find something exciting for you.
So exciting! You've got nothing on us with your cubs in mother's mouth and that sort of thing. Here we've got, I think there's a hippo there. Yes, a hippopotamus right at the far end there. We've got algae. We've got a breeze blowing across the surface of the water. A dove. I'm sure there are terrapins here somewhere. Gosh, what a day it's been. We did see one waterbuck on the way here. It ran away into the bush. Tamara, you're 11 years old and wondering if any of the guides have ever played the wonderful game known as Bok Drol Spuch. Now, what a wonderful game that is. South Africa has come up with a number of remarkable games, including the delightful game of Yukske, or throw sticks at other sticks, and Bok Drol Spuch. Now, for those of you who do not speak Afrikaans, Bok Drol Spuch is the game of spitting the dung of an antelope. We're not going to spuch that because that is carnivore scat. Not a carnivore that I've managed to see, obviously. And it just so happens that today is the kind of day where I can't even find a little pile of antelope dung so that I can demonstrate Bok Drol Spuch. You know, I should have got back into bed after I got into the car this morning, and I should tell you why I should have done that. Because I stood in a great big pile of monkey poo. And, in fact, I had to clean it out the bottom of the vehicle. It was so caked on the bottom of my foot. And that was a sign for me to go back into my room. I also apparently managed to put it on the final control carpet. It's not my day. Tomorrow I will try and demonstrate a boktrolsboek for you. But anything I look for today is gone, including a seemingly immobile pile of antelope dung. Thank you, Owen, for casting your camera onto the vast array of entertainment available here at this waterhole. I am so pleased. Thank you very much, Zach. You have pointed out that our wonderful viewer, whose name is Who Farted, is here with us, and Who Farted says, yes, he is here. Good news, indeed. Thank you, Who Farted. It's lovely to have you with us. Or she, yes. I don't know if it's a he or she. Do you think that that hippopotamus, other than being completely submerged, could show less of itself? Because I don't. 1 inch of nose, eye, and ear. It looks like the ones you buy in the garden shop that you put in your pond, so that you may think of days like this. I'm obviously being deeply curmudgeonly right now because it is a beautiful day. Lovely, warm autumnal sun warming my face. And in comparison, of course, with so much of humanity right now, I am in absolute paradise. So I have naught to complain about, except the monkey dung. I am going to complain about that. That was unfair of the universe. Jaunty in Adelaide, what do I like most about being a game ranger? Living here is what I love most about being a game ranger. Jaunty in Adelaide, I get to watch the sun come up every morning and go down every evening in a beautiful place. There is no traffic. Well, there is sometimes if you're in a very exciting sighting, but there are very few cars, not a lot of people, and there are beautiful smells and sounds and sights every single day. So that's what I love about being out here. Sometimes there are even animals. Some of you are asking me to sing the Yellow Bus song. I don't remember the Yellow Bus song, I'm afraid. It comes from the Masai Mara, everybody. I think I made it up on the hoof or on the fly. The grebe is way across the other side there, and I think she's carrying her babies. Can you see it there? Yeah, it's kind of there.
There we go. Just gone under.
No, then it's not carrying its babies. No, it's not. Oh, yes, they are going under. That's right.
The same one.
I'm sure it is. Kirsten
Extreme swimming lessons.
Kirsten thinks that they're having extreme swimming lessons, but I'm not sure that that's true. The Yellow Bus song. I don't remember that one. I remember singing a song with Chandra about a yellow bus, but I don't remember the actual song. Shall we carry on? No, I don't remember the Nkahuma song either. I do remember the Mosquito Song, which I also sing for you all. Many of you will not have heard the Mosquito Song before. So before you go off to see an actual animal, I shall sing you the Mosquito Song. It's a short song. It goes like this. Owen, have you heard it?
No.
It goes like this. You ready? You can clap now, Owen. You're going to join in the chorus. Yeah, it's kind of doesn't have a chorus or verse, just in one. We're going to go to Charlotte now, who's with an animal. Oh, no.
I do have an animal. She is basically, or rather I am mirroring how she feels at the moment, because the sun is amazing. Really, really amazing. It's making me a little bit tired. I could so sit on a termite mound right now. Sleep like her. She looks so peaceful. Really, you're lucky I was awake when you came to me. Hello, lilac-breasted roller. Can you hear it above us? Oh, there it goes. Oh, almost. There it goes. Oh, it's practicing. Thought it was going to roll for us. But it's not the right season for it to be rolling anyway. It's just practicing. Just need to pull out my binoculars for a moment because I thought I saw something. The thing I saw is a snake, I think. Either that or it's a lichen on a branch. Nope, never mind. It's some lichen on a branch. It's just that branch right there. It makes me think it's a snake, though. Can you see it next to the right? Just in there, straight in and up by the lichen. There, rolled up. I thought that was a snake. Never mind. Instead of showing you a lichen on a branch, Eric at andBeyond Ngala has an actual animal for you. It is very tall, very lovely. It is a giraffe.
We have just left the area where we saw that lioness, and we've stumbled across this beautiful male giraffe. He's walking so graciously straight past us, not really paying us any attention. Got a very, very bumpy forehead. It almost looks like there's a bit of bone that's exposed through the skin there. See that? Casually chewing as he's walking. He might be heading towards a small little pan to drink. I'm sure you're all wondering what happened after we left you, but basically we sat and waited for another 20 minutes or so, and there wasn't any other movement, so we suspect that this lioness has probably only got 2 cubs, and we were lucky enough to catch her moving the last of her 2 cubs. And we just decided, instead of putting unnecessary pressure on her, we were so lucky to get that amazing view and amazing moment with her, so we decided to leave them be, and we might try in the next couple of days to see if we see anything else, but in the meantime we're going to spend some time with this giraffe. And I mean, he's so gracious and such a dark color. I mean, he's pretty much around his midsection is completely black and very brown as he starts coming up into his neck. And he looks like he's got lots of fur missing on the side of his throat, a very lumpy forehead. And so I think he's quite an old male, and a lot of these things would have been caused by fighting. I do know that there is a parasite that eats away and forms a big scar around the neck. And so Molly's asking about that neck, and I think it's a small little parasite that eats away over here, and then when it's ready to leave hosts, it comes out onto the surface of the neck and becomes an open wound, and then with the likes of oxpeckers, it irritates that wound and it makes it turn into quite a nasty scar, but it doesn't affect them too much. And we're just about to see this giraffe drink. This is going to be very cool. It's a small little puddle. He's walking straight there. This is going to be awesome. So let's see. Let's count how long he's going to spend drinking. I mean, he's got such a big heart that if his head goes below his heart, the blood pressure just increases a lot, and they need to pick up their head very quickly. I'm gonna bet on 20 seconds maybe. Let's see how long it takes him. Oh, a bit hesitant. Okay, starting from now. That's past 20 seconds. He must be thirsty. But as he finishes his drink, watch how he flicks up with his head. And that flick just helps the blood flow move back down his neck. There we go. There's a flick. Not too far off. He'll probably go down and have another drink. He's licking his lips. There we go. Down he goes. Oh. This is probably their most vulnerable position, and because they're just so awkward when they drink. They have to bend those legs, they have to go down, and so their center of gravity is completely off. And if you look at his feet, they're completely muddy there, so he actually needed to put his feet in the mud to get level ground and then only bend down. Interesting that he just decided to have one drink. I wonder if it was just a quick little thirst quencher. Maybe he just decided to have a quick little drink. The water could potentially not be tasty, so that's why he decided to move off. And look how uneven those horns are there. I've just noticed that. That one on the left-hand side is much shorter than the one on the right.
You can also smell him.
Anushka's asking about why he is dark, and it's an interesting one that I think there's lots of theories behind it, but the latest study that I've read about these giraffes is from 2018, and they studied these giraffe in Etosha, and they basically just counted the males over I think a couple of years period to see if they got older with age, or to see if it was more of a testosterone thing, like similar to a male lion. And I think they worked out that the darker giraffe, the darker males, tended to get better mating rights. So they were more comfortable being by themselves, and they would wander around more and go in and out of herds a lot more than a blonder-maned giraffe who would basically just sit with a herd of females and hope that one would come into estrus. These males could potentially think that being by themselves, they can stumble across a big family of giraffe, and then that might be it might be a lot easier for them to come in and take over the male when they're competing with one another for mating rights. But I think that there must be a bit of both here, because you never see a baby or a young giraffe being born this color. It's something that happens with age. I'm sure it does have something to do with their testosterone, but also I've seen females that have got very dark manes and males that are older than this one that have got lighter manes. So I think there's I don't know if there's a set in stone answer. I think it's very flexible. I'm sure it's got something to do with the pigment. It's probably got a little bit to do with their testosterone too. I think it's one of those things that we can't really give a solid, clear answer to. And with different research papers, there's always different outcomes, and they've got different results. So Remind Me has asked a cool question about why they look like camels, and I'm sure they are related. I mean, they look very, very, very similar. I don't know how closely related they are. I know a giraffe's closest living relative is a funny species that you find in Central Africa called an okapi. But the Afrikaans, a very, very descriptive language, call giraffes a kameelperd, which is directly translates to a camel horse.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and Marcel being Afrikaans says, yeah, definitely makes sense. But I want to show you what an okapi looks like, and let's see, it's on page 100. There we go. This is an okapi, if everyone can see. I don't know if the sun's in the wrong direction, but very, very strange looking animal. So you only really find it right in the center of Africa, around the Congo. I think it's quite a jungle prone animal, a much shorter neck than a giraffe, but apparently this is its closest relative. A cross between a giraffe, a camel, and a zebra. A bit strange. I wonder how many people have ever heard of a okapi before. Not a common species. See, I think this giraffe is moving into quite thick bush. I don't know if we're going to see him as well as we did earlier. Alrighty, so we're going to leave this giraffe. We're probably just going to go and check a waterhole. It's starting to warm up now, so see if there might be any elephants or something in the next 20 minutes or so. So we're going to send you to James.
We have got the harbinger of death here, cleaning his cloak, deathly feathers. He had a friend with him, but the friend thought that now would be an appropriate time to take off. It's just above him now, and he's seeking out a thermal to carry him high into the sky. As yet he hasn't found one. Oh, there he's picked up some height. This is wonderful, actually, watching him fly like that. Don't fly over us, you cretinous bird.
The camera can't go any further.
He's gone now. He's flying with the wind away. We'll go back to the one on the tree, who was no doubt about to do the same. In fact, looks like it's going to do exactly the same thing shortly. He's turned round. Oh, he's tagged. This is a tagged bird, everyone. So there's a lot of vulture research going on out here. A78, I think is what that says. That's very cool. He's going to fly. You ready, Owen? And 1, 2, 3. No. Here we go. He's trying to see if his mate's found thermal, you see. He's watching his mate carefully. That's exactly what he's doing. He's just trying to see if there's actually a thermal. It's quite early still. And I suppose it's not early for them. They should be getting up around about now. The thermals will start rising. Getting restless for sure. I would really love to be able to see like a vulture. There's one behind him now, flying past. Probably the same one. Hasn't managed to gain any height yet, really. He may have found himself something there. Vultures are supposedly able to see thermals. He's found a little one there. No, Big Kev, I don't need to report the tag. They seem to not really respond to any of the messages that we sent about the last one that we saw tagged. I think they pick them up from time to time. I will send a message to the chap, but he lives just at the gate, I think. Isn't that cool? As I've said to many of you before, there's nothing I find quite as peaceful as sitting watching birds of prey, especially vultures, flying on a breeze like this. Let's go back to the one in the tree. Liz, no, you can't pick the tag out. I don't know why exactly. I suspect that it is affixed with a very strong metal pin. It is A78. Is it as close in as we can get? Yes, Claire, they can only fly with one wing with the tag like that, and so they fly in circles, but luckily vultures like flying in circles, so, it doesn't really matter. I'm joking. No, I don't think the tag affects their flying in the slightest. Maybe in a very strong wind, they may feel slight difference in drag between the two wings, but they'll just make a very slight adjustment with the other wing. So no, I don't think it affects their ability to fly or move distance at all. Limited edition, I don't remember exactly. We did go through this quite extensively the last time we found a tagged vulture, and my 1 megabyte brain has forgotten exactly what we discussed. But I think what you'll find is that this is a released bird. So this is a bird that has been through some form of rehabilitation and has been released and is now living in the wild. I think that's how it went. I'm pretty sure somebody on the Twitter sphere will get hold of us now and say, yes, that is correct, or no, James is talking garbage. Yeah, many of them could have been poisoned vultures that were rehabilitated, injured vultures that were rehabilitated, and then they get tagged and sent out into the wild, and this is a way of monitoring their progress. Yeah, chap's name is Andre Buerta. I'm afraid he was singularly unresponsive when I sent him the last pictures. Can everybody agree that that is A78? Yes? All right, we think this is A78, so I'll send it to him. We could try and find the history, but like I say, I had very little response from the chap last time. I don't know why. I think he's obviously very busy. But nice to see. Means that the rehabilitation programs are working. Yeah, Harley, they are still being killed for medicinal purposes. Is he being bombed? Is he about to fly? Human beings and their inability to stop killing things in the wild really is it's not something that's showing any signs of declining. So yes, they are killed for superstitious uses in various medicinal. I think medicinal would be a very strong way to describe it. I think they're used for superstitious and witchcraft purposes. And these are obviously very real things to some people. To many people they might sound ridiculous, but often if you consider some of your own beliefs and those sorts of things, they're relatively similar. So it really is a complicated question of going out into communities out here and saying, now come on guys, we really need these vultures, and we can't be killing them to sell their heads to traditional healers. And it's very few people, it's not a lot of people, but poison one carcass in order to harvest the vultures that come and die there, and you can kill 40 or 50 in one go very quickly. So unfortunately, yes, they are still being killed for superstition and witchcraft. And you'll probably find it's often by people who are not interested at all. It's probably that the actual poachers are not interested. They just need money. And so they are then selling these things at something like 5,000 or 10,000 rand a head to traditional healers. Which makes it even doubly tragic. James Richard, I agree. I remember the other two that we saw having 3 numbers, but I can only see 2 on this chap. The other one we saw was A313. Maybe he's older. Maybe the white-backed vultures only had 2 numbers. I don't know. Right, we are now going to go across to Marcel, who will give us a fact of the day. Good luck understanding it. I'm sure I wouldn't.
Good morning, and welcome to what has been dubbed Mid-Morning Fun Fact from Marcel, or MFM. So, my fact for today is the first nuclear power plant that was connected to the grid. So it wasn't necessarily the absolute first reactor, it's just the first one that was connected to the grid, was the Obninsk nuclear power plant in the Kaluga Oblast in Russia, or the Soviet Union of those days. Construction of it began on the 1st of January 1951. Criticality was achieved on the 6th of May 1954. And then on the 26th June 1954, it was connected to the electrical grid. It was a graphite tip moderated design, which is basically the forerunner of the RBMK design, which was used in Chernobyl and numerous other Soviet Union power plants. It had a thermal capacity of 30 megawatt, but electrical capacity of 5 megawatts. So with the later designs, such as the RBMK, they really improved the efficiency a lot, from about a 6 to more about a third. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Marcel. What a cool fact. I hope everyone remembers that. Marcel, were you reading that fact? No, that's... Marcel wasn't reading the fact, actually. Who would have thought, coming on safari and you start learning about the power of... Yeah. Marcel's a wealth of knowledge. He gives me 4 facts an hour usually, and most of them I've forgotten already. We were wondering what was happening with that wildebeest carcass, and we were actually on there. I don't know your main for the show, but we'll definitely have see what activity bring this after some time, probably later on in the afternoon, see if we can maybe see if there's hyenas that have taken over the kill, or how many vulture species we find. I'm sure it will be quite an interesting and entertaining sighting if it is still there. My heart rate has started to slow down, so I've started to process the facts that we managed to see a lioness carrying her cub. And that is just absolutely incredible. Like I said, that's the second time I've ever seen it. Quite a special morning. I hope everyone enjoyed it. And we were saying, Marcel and I, this morning, we said Marcel left his camera behind, I left my battery behind, and so we both said we were bound to see something epic because we didn't have any photographic equipment with us. But yeah, we are more than likely going to say goodbye to you for the morning now, and we'll probably send you across to James to finish off the morning.
Good grief. Where is it? In the bush. Is he emerging? He's in the bush. He is in the thickest bush. There is a buffalo there. A buffalo bull, which we do not see very frequently these days. Oh, here he comes. He looks like he might attack us, Owen. Good morning. How are you? Yes, we're still here. Where are you going? Did you arrive here with some friends, or were you on your own?
Bring some lions with you.
He's not very polite, as Owen says. Did he bring some lions with him?
Looked like he liked that question.
No, he didn't like that inquiry, Owen. You'll now go and find some shade to lie in. Well, it's quite nice to see a buffalo, isn't it? Not really going to compete with lioness and cub in mouth. You know, lioness with cub in mouth, or buffalo with obvious diarrhea problems. I think the lion wins. Kirsten just saying unless the buffalo was carrying a baby buffalo in its mouth. That would definitely have topped it. These impalas are fascinated by the sight of a buffalo walking past. Well, he did bring some friends. His friends have walked through here. They have left their piles of dung. This is why he is coming closer to the road. Hello, impalas. Where is he now? He's just in here, hey? Thank you, Annaby. You say, now, well, Nanaby, you say you're impressed that I found a moving heartbeat. Not as impressed as I am, Nanaby. Let's carry on down here. Maybe in the last minute we'll catch up with the rest of the herd being set upon by a squadron of lions. I think we all know the likelihood of that. Straight ahead. Kay Williamson, you say that I must find you the Torchwood Pride this afternoon. They are your favourite, no pressure. Kay Williamson, I'd love to do that for you. Unfortunately, the Torchwood Pride tend to live on Torchwood. On my right. What's on my right, Owen, other than guarri bushes by the thousand? Where are the buffalo? Absolute garbage. Just on the other side of the termite mound. Where? Show me one. Ah, yes. Look at that. We only have 20 seconds left of the drive. I'm going to have to do bokdrol spook this afternoon, everyone. I'm sorry about that. I'm sure that You're all very sad that I have not spent the morning spitting dung at you. We'll see you this afternoon at 3 o'clock. Until then, bye-bye.